So this is in response to the video for Limitless Auto. I can make videos too, bro. So first I want to show you some text messages that I had with the owner, Faisal. I have his name saved as Mechanic Faisal. So I took the car, it was shaking at first, and then he basically told me that um, he's like, all right, I'm going to run a full diagnosis on the car, tell you everything that's wrong with it. Whatever you want to fix, you can. Whatever you don't, you don't. I'm like, well, it's just shaking. Nonetheless, he took the car and then he's like, all right, you got to replace your CV shaft. You got to replace your front driver's side lower suspension control arm. You got to replace your tensioner, your idler pulley. I got to do a new alignment, and you're going to need new front brakes. All this just for the car shaking a bit when I brake it. Apparently had all these other stuff, but apparently they did a very thorough diagnosis, so they were telling me everything. Me, I read the reviews. I was like, all right, these guys are honest. Let me go through with it. So we agreed on a price, 1320, and I was like, all right, go ahead. Then the day that they were working on it, they called me. They're like, oh, your fan is broken. Now that I think about it, something that they might have broke because I never had an issue with it, never making any noise. It was perfectly fine. Nonetheless, I was like, all right, you know what? Go ahead and fix it. I sent him this message here. Just got a call. Basically, I'm sure you guys can read this. I was like, and make sure you check your Freon, like check the rear bumper, check the rear tire pressure and the windshield wiper, because you said you're gonna just kind of check those for me on top of the stuff that you're already doing. He's like, all right, we'll do. Now, the second message, he comes in here and says, you know what? I'm going to tell him to move aside and do it myself. So now this is the owner of the shop basically saying he's going to do it, where there's no issues. He's taking care of everything. Now, I'm ecstatic. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Um, and then basically I was just kind of asking him what station I should meet because I was going to go to the station. He was going to pick me up. Um, so then I told him I'll be at the station, whatever. And here I'm like, all right, I'm looking forward to getting my brand new BMW, because he basically said after this is all done, you are not going to have any issues for a while. We did a full test on the car. There's nothing else wrong with it. I was like, awesome. So I was like, did you get a chance to fix everything else? He's like, no. I called him on Thursday and he's like, I'm basically, well, on Wednesday, he's like, you here yet? Referring to the station. And then I called him. I was like, yeah, we got to the car. Now, when I get to the car, I realized that there is some oil underneath the car. And I was like, hey, is that from mine? He's like, no, no, no. That's from another car that we had parked there. I was like, okay, cool. I take the car home, and then when I take it to work the next day, I realize it has an oil stain on my driveway. And I'm like, I never had an oil stain before. I gave this guy to check the brakes and stuff. Why is there oil? So I sent him this message saying, hey, the car's leaking oil, and now I got my check engine light on. What the hell did you guys do to the car? Um, so he's like, all right, I'm driving. Don't want to get a ticket. Nonetheless, I find this out on Thursday. Um, I don't end up getting to the shop until Saturday, and every single day there's all this oil that's coming out of my car and leaking and leaking and leaking. So when I get there, he says, "Oh, there's no leak. I don't see anything." He just wanted me to get out, and then I was like, "Dude, like I'm not crazy. It was leaking." Um, and then he's like, "No, it's not." And then he's like, it could have been excess oil that was stuck in the engine. I'm like, how could it be excess oil that's leaking for 3 days in a row? That much oil. That's a lot of excess. Then I basically had to show him where to go, what to take out, how to check it. And then finally he's like, oh yeah, now I see the leak. I'm like, so why did I have to tell you this? He's like, oh, I was just doing what you asked me to do. At this point, I just got so frustrated. I was like, look, dude, like you guys clearly messed this up. Just fix it. I don't care anymore. He's like, oh, we didn't work on this. We worked on all these other things. We didn't touch your rack. And then I was like, well, the car wasn't leaking. Every part that you guys worked on surrounds the rack and pinion. So I assume that one of you guys did something because it wasn't leaking before and now it is. oh well, go to any mechanic and ask them if the CV shaft has anything to do with the racket pin. I'm like, yeah, well, that's clearly, it doesn't have anything to do with it, but you guys obviously did something to it where now it's leaking the oil. And then he's like, no, it wasn't. It's not, or it's not our problem. You have to pay for it. And I just got really frustrated. I was like, how can you explain this? He's like, oh, it's an old car. It could have happened. I'm like, so you're telling me it happened by the time I gave it to you and then I left? His words, quote for quote, was, it happened exactly when you went on the street and you left my dealership. Do you believe that? That's his exact words to me. And then I was just frustrated. He's like, you know what? Come Monday, we'll figure out a price for you, but you're still paying for it. So I got upset. I left. And then I was like, you know what? Let me not be upset. Let me just play nice with this guy because I'm invested a lot of money in him. I brought my car to him back in December and I paid him $1,200. And then now I'm paying him $1,400. So there's a lot because this guy claims that he offers 2-year warranty and whatnot. So I basically sent him this long romantic note, blah blah blah, and then he responds with, "Yeah, it's a rack and pinion." Sends me another mechanic's advice because he didn't know what's going on. He had to wait for another mechanic, and this is the owner, by the way. Then he sends me this thing about, "Oh yeah, maybe this is your first time, but it's not mine." And he's like, "I'm willing to do the next 3 oil changes for you at no cost, but don't bother me about this." Like clearly now he knows that this is issues on him, and he's trying to buy me out by doing 3 measly oil changes because he just fucked up a part of my car that cost $800 to $900 to fix. So now I'm pissed off, and I was like, okay, whatever. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm like, so are you gonna come pick it up tomorrow? We'll figure out the price. I'm gonna take my wife's car. He doesn't respond. Then I'm like, all right, you know what? Since you're not responding, I remember when I brought my car to you in December, you already supposedly fixed my front brakes and you charged me for labor. And on the invoice, you have written right on it, it says 2-year warranty. So as you see here, right over there, it says parts and labor include a 2-year warranty dated back in December 2014. And there it is, front disc and everything. So at this point, I was just so fed up. I was like, you know what? Just give me back my $300 for those parts at least, and I'm gonna just cut my losses and whatnot. Then he's like, oh, that's the estimate. Can you send me a picture of the invoice? Now I'm like, well, that was the invoice. It's the only thing you gave me after I paid you. And I resent it to him. And he's like, we do warranties. The supplier asked for the original invoice. They don't accept an estimate. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm sure you can pull it out. So he comes back with, my computer crashed on me last March, so I won't have a copy for the invoice. And I'm just like, this is all you gave me, dude. I paid you, and this is what you gave me. So their scam is they give you this thing, like a receipt, but they write estimate on it. They pocket the cash. They don't have to claim taxes, and they're not held to hold the 2-year warranty also. And then if you ask them for it, their computer magically crashes where they can't retrieve it. So he's like, you know what, the work that you just did, I can do it now, but it's your responsibility to get the invoice. This looks like an invoice to me. So I was like, so you're in the habit of tricking people into thinking you have an invoice, but really give them something else? I was like, why don't we, and if that was an issue before, why would you do it again this time? Why would you give me an estimate again this time? He's like, oh, because the estimate I gave you, I thought was the invoice. So now that he got called out, now he's like, okay. So I call him and I was like, look, like, this is bullshit, you know, like you're trying to scam me and everything. I just want my $300 for the stuff that was on warranty. I'm going to take my car somewhere else to fix it, even though you messed it up, and now I'm going to be $800 out of pocket. Then this guy, and then I was like, and then he just said pretty much no. Like, you can't prove anything. Take me to small claims. Take me to court. Do whatever you want. And I was like, you know what? Enjoy the 1400. I'm done with someone like you who's dishonest. And this guy claims to be a Muslim because he's got a long beard. a beard doesn't make you a good person nor a good Muslim, so just keep that in mind. And then he writes back with, "Oh yeah, you threatened me. I'm so scared of you. I love my life. Please, I'm so scared. Please don't contact me again." So this is his way of basically deterring me from trying to contact him or about this or trying to press charges on him, because he's gonna make up this whole thing on how I threatened him somewhat. I don't know what he's talking about. Meanwhile, on the call, another way to deter me, he's like, "I'm selling the business in 40 days, and I'm going to vandalize it, and then I'm going to say it was you because of the text message I sent. So basically, you're going to be held responsible for paying for it, and you can also fix a lot of the damages that are on it because I'm going to say that you did it." So then I want to just make sure that I had that in writing here and that I send it back to him. And then he's like, "Oh, I just said don't contact me again. And by the way, my wife was listening and recorded." So it's good. Hopefully he does have it recorded, because then I can play it to the insurance company about how he's like, basically, he's going to vandalize his own place and blame it on me just so he can get it fixed because he's planning to sell the place or whatever. So what this was the invoice back in December, and he calls it to be an estimate now. So he's not honoring this part here that says parts and labor included for 2 years. Again, did the same thing this time when I paid him the money. This is an estimate again. So just beware that these guys, that's the scams that they do. And this guy is the biggest liar, because there's two things. Luckily, other people are submitting complaints about him. And one complaint was from this person. They're saying that they're crooks. And he responded, and this was just today, the same time that he sent me the message. He basically is like, "We've gone through the invoices for the past 3 years, and we're not able to find an invoice with your name." Meanwhile, when you ask him to find an invoice for you, his response is, "My computer crashed on me last March, so I won't have a copy of the invoice." Now, is this an honest mechanic based off his video? You guys are seeing behind the scenes here, and you guys are seeing the true facts. Now, I'm so happy for technology, because this guy is making himself to be honest. Meanwhile, you guys are seeing all this stuff. Now, the other thing is, here, he's making all these little childish claims on top of his childish thing about saying, "Oh, I'm going to, I'm scared of you," or whatever, and stop threatening me. He basically wrote here, he only charged me $300 for a $1,200 service. There's the $1,200 that he charged me that I paid for. It wasn't $300. And if he's so high in quality and whatnot, why would he give me, or why would he install old or unreliable parts and put his name on it? So this is all a lie as well, and there's the proof for it. As well as this one was great, because this kind of shows you how twisted these people are. So just be mindful. Do not go to this company. These guys are scam artists. What they'll do is, one, they won't honor their warranties, and two, they'll break other things in your car so that way you can get it fixed. So how is it possible that after they did a diagnosis, after the car was sitting there for 2 days, they never caught an oil spill? But magically, as soon as they finish doing all the work, the car leaks oil. There it is. Just keep people honest, and I just hope that karma will come back to these guys and something will happen to them. All right, God bless.